This video I'm going to demonstrate how to ultimately replace the heater pad in the driver's seat of my 2002 Volvo V70 XC. I've gone to the wreck yard already and have procured a replacement heater and seat pad. There is a video out there from Sir Rob, a user called Sir Rob on YouTube, and he does a great job of demonstrating how to test the functionality of the heater pad in both the back of the seat and the bottom of the seat. One option, if you're looking to purchase a new heater pad, the instructions are to take a hairdryer to the existing one, peel it off, put the new one on, and then call it a day. The heater pad's not that cheap, so I went with the wreck yard option and did not feel like peeling the old one off and putting a new one on, so I took the whole pad and seat out of the donor vehicle, and my plan is to replace both without needing to remove the heater pad itself. First step is to remove four 14mm bolts. One here, one down there, it's already out. And two at the rear, 1, 2. In my case, they're already out. Involves removing the control panel on the side. Really start from one side and just lift, and then go to the back side and lift as well. These do tend to get brittle over time. Sorry, at the back so the front side comes off by popping upwards, and then the back side, as you'll see, it probably makes most sense to push backwards to get it off, to make sure you don't break this clip right here, which fits on this circular piece of metal down here to give yourself maximum room. I think what I'm going to do is kind of center the seat. Actually, it is already centered. You don't want it too far forward and you don't want it too far back, because the metal will stick out too far from one end or the other. Seat's unbolted. Next step is to try and lift it as much as you can to get access to the stuff underneath. Normally at this point, before you start unplugging stuff, it's best to disconnect the battery, but since I've already got an SRS message, I'm just gonna leave it and deal with it afterwards using Vita. You're gonna want to unplug this harness. To do that, this rotates open like so. You're gonna need to take this off and this off. It's just a push connector. A very stiff push connector. Another one, that's off. And then once you've got that, you should be able to work on extracting this puppy here. This comes right out. Once you flip this upwards, you can pull this right out. Close this. Pull that out. And then this comes right out. Done. Should now be able to take the seat right out. Again, be very careful of these edges as you turn and make your way around the door. And I'm actually going to place a cover over the top of the door just to make sure I don't scratch anything. disconnect the seatbelt. It's a lot easier to do this before I take the seatbelt. Anyway, here I am. Seatbelt bolt is a T50. To get the seat to fold back on itself like I did, you just lift these two levers, one here and one at the other end, lift them at the same time, and the back will fold right up against the front. Do not attempt to work on the seat on a hardwood floor or on any other surface that can be scratched. Next step is to remove all of the hog rings that keep the seat in place. Having done this before, I find these cutters actually work best. You do need a fair amount of leverage because they are quite sturdy, the hog rings. So tilt the seat back. And then what I would also recommend is that you use some whitener or some other means of keeping track of where the hog rings have gone in. So at the front, 1, 2, 3, 4. So mark those off. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cut those off first. Hog rings are here. One, 2, 3. Maybe keep track of where they fly off to so that your family members don't step on them. There are also 3 along the side. 1, 2, 3, obviously on both sides. 1, 2, 3. It's pretty clear where these went in, so I won't mark these. There's holes in the upholstery there. Same thing on the other side. This is where the whitener may come in handy. So the next 2 are here. 1, 2. How many? 2 at the front. I'll cut these off. Again, be very careful of the upholstery. There's also a metal retainer that the hog ring fastens to. Obviously don't cut that. Thing on this side, I'll use the small cutters for this. It's out. And we got 2 more. 1, 2. Mark that off. Again, they go around the piping. Make sure the hog rings don't stay in the seat. Okay, you can back it up some more. And then what you'll see here, I would have thought. Interesting. Should have been 2 hog rings here. You can see one is still in place down here, and it would have wrapped around this. So I'm going to put some liquid paper there, and the other is right here. It should have wrapped around here. So we'll make sure that's back in place. This piece here, this rod, is supposed to be connected to the upholstery like it is on the sides, and it's not. So that's what is supposed to, the hog rings are attached to. So I may by hand sew these two pieces back together. One, two. What you see me doing here is just inspecting for any leftover hog rings. You really want to make sure you've taken all the remnants out, because those hog ring pieces could easily cut the heating element once the seat is put back together and once someone sits in the seat. Two more back here. One right here. One right in here on the other side. One more back here. That'll be fun to get to. At the very back, there are two more here. Sometimes you can just kind of wrench them out. One, two, three clips to get rid of. Two, three. And clip that from that side. Let's go. Lose some patience. Once you've done that, this should come right up. Two more clips. One here, one right here. Follow the seat heater plug. This one here. And the seat heater is the 4-prong green one. Unplug like that. That's what you're replacing. Pull the side flaps out carefully. They should no longer be fastened. Push that through. We'll have a look at this. I think we found where the short is. And that should be, there you go, right here. So that's clearly what's causing the issue. And I suppose you could put that back together, call it a day, but I've got the replacement cushion, so I'm going to go with that. Now, the way to remove this is to start at the rear. And there are 4 springs that hold the seat pad in place. pry the springs upwards from the end that fits into the seat. Once you've done that, the pad is really just held in at the front. There's a wire that goes down the side, the front end of the pad, and then there are these bits of the frame of the seat actually curls around the wire in each location. So once you've got the back springs off, you should be able to lift. There you go, just like that. Push. Pull right out. To put the seat back on, I think I may hook up the 4 springs first and then kind of pull the seat forward until the front wire sits into these ridges. That should do the trick. I'm going to try putting the upholstery on to the seat pad first, but in order to do that, I'm going to have to take a break and do some sewing by hand, because this needs to be affixed like this. Who knew that when you learned how to sew in home ec in high school, it would be for a car repair? So basically what I've done in this first step is this folds over a few times to fully enclose the rod. So I'm just very quickly folding it back over so that when I sew it for real against this, I won't have to deal with it coming unraveled. Very rough sewing job just to keep the edges all together. I'm going to go back across. Well, I'm going to flip this over and sew this piece back to the upholstery all the way across. 2 broken needles later, I'm almost at the end of my stretch. I'm not sure my mom would be especially proud of my sewing skills right now, but I think it'll do the trick. So let's finish it off. Should do it. Good. All right, I've got my hog ring pliers and hog rings ready for action. I'm going to selectively reinstall some of the hog ring clips just to make my life a little bit easier. And the way this works is take one off, slip it in like so, so you've got it gripped. One done. So in that case, I put it on the seat base first. Insert the hog ring into the pliers. Install it in the seat base first. Make sure it hooks. Make sure it hooks into the seat base. This is what you're trying to get into, so put it down. Ah, crap. Make sure your hog rings in the pliers. Connect it to the ring down there. Lift this down, hook it in, squeeze. You're in. That's probably the hardest one when the seat was in. So you've got that in. There's another one up here. So we'll do that one next. Put the hog ring in. Put it in the seat first. Push the rod down. Make sure it's fastened to the hog ring. It is. You're good. One more done. Some will say you can use tie wraps for this, but sometimes the results are inferior. So I've got the hog ring pliers. They weren't that expensive to purchase, so I might as well use it. Make sure the pliers are hooked into the seat, or the pliers and the hog ring. Line it up with the next hog ring. Confirm where you want to get this in, right there. Push that thing down. There we go. Squeeze. Oh shoot! Missed. Hog ring in. Ring down. There we go. Got it. You can see when they're done. Loops in there nicely. Loops in here nicely. 3 along the front where I've fixed and sewed this bar back in. 1, 2, 3. One. Clip it into the seat first. Then push the bar down. Squeeze the two together. Done. Other side. Push it in the seat. What you're doing is hooking the hog ring in, so you hook it into the bottom first. Push the seat down. Hook it into the other rod and squeeze. And you're good. 1, 2, 3. Sits nicely here. Next, we had 1, 2 here. It's ready. Make sure the tubing is evenly set, evenly distributed. Right now it is not. So what you're doing is, this plastic tubing is what you're going to be hooking into. There's no metal there, so you want to make sure you get that right. This plastic tubing here, all the way around the ribbing, is what you're going to be affixing to the seat, not a metal wire. This down. Better. Next is here. I'm not convinced this one's going to hold well, so we'll do it as far back as we possibly can here. So I made sure I went further back than where it was, just because it seems to have torn. So that seems to work well. Same thing on this side. So we got two here. We did all the inside ones. Okay, now pull this over like this. Oops. Top of the seat looks good. And as for the rest of them, we had some along the front. I think it was 1, 2, 3, 4 along the front, and 3 on the sides, and a few along the back. Now those need to be done. Actually, can I do this now? I might be able to do this now, but it probably makes sense to wait until the seat is installed. Next step is to reinstall the seat base. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is slide this on first. Get it back. This will be going over top of this. So push this through. You see there's a big groove for where this sits. So it looks like I've got this close to being in the right spot, if not bang on. You want to tuck this in. This will fit under here like so. This comes in over the side. And what you want to do next, I think, this part I'm not so sure about, is connect each of these to the pad. Wow. Let's try the middle one first, maybe. Okay, there's one. It's a pain in the ass. There's two. 3, and then 4. All 4 in. And so the next step is to get the metal rod in over top of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hooks. If I can do it with a pry bar here. There we go. Yeah, works pretty well with a large pry bar. I'll show you from afar here. So what I've done is taken a large pry bar. I get a little bit of purchase on that and lift it over top. Last one's on the very bottom, so anyway. So all I'm doing here is you can see the yellow notch right there. And you've got to lift it over. And there you go. So you do that for each of them. And then it sits in place. What I'm trying to deal with now is the fact that there are these two lips. And I think you need to come through. Come on. Push through. I've got these two little flaps here, and they need to be pushed under and in front of that piece of steel for further reattachment. Same thing on the other side. So you can grab those from underneath, pull them through. Okay, so we're gonna just twist the seat again. And what you see is this has got to come through here. Next to something in the middle here. I can't remember what. Make sure this comes with it. These two pieces should be stuck together. And this again connects to something. I don't know what. This one goes this out of the way. This one goes like this. Okay, next step is to connect these two flaps to these gizmos right here. That. Should do the trick. 1, 2. I think all three of these things were connected here. One done. Two. 3. 1, 2, 3. I've pushed these out of the way. I'm gonna tie wrap that, tie wrap this, and then the underside will be done. Oof. Wire there. This is your seat heater module here. This is the other thing that does fail sometimes. And again, Sir Rob has a good video on how to test this. And this is good. One, two, three, two, three. Now on the front, loop it through the little one. Pressure exerted on the upholstery itself. Go. Good. Not perfect, but looks fine. Right, the seat's been put back in. I've got a couple things to reconnect. 1, 2, 3. And 4. Something like that. Just need to be careful that I make sure the pin gets inserted into the hole, and everything else should come into place, go into place just fine. Just a note, when I put the seat back in, it was easiest to take this right out, take it out of the way so you don't crack it. And then when the seat is in, slam it back into place. So let's lower the seat, put it back where it belongs. And make sure it's fitting correctly at the back. Looks good at the back. Don't forget to screw in the seat belt. So I have not done that yet. Before you put the seat together, get access to that T50 and screw the seat belt back in. So I'll do that before I do anything else, if I can actually lift this and get access to it properly. Okay, there we go. Put this back on. Put the rear on first. Set. Get started. Back on, and do yourself a favor, it takes about a minute. Put them in the sink, wash them off. They look so much better when they're clean, and it's a lot easier to clean these outside of the vehicle. And these get inserted from above. They snap into place. This Same with the other side. This is how this one's broken. Tab's busted right off. Doesn't mean you can't put it back on, but it won't stay very well. Stays better than I anticipated anyway. These slide in from the rear. So there's a clip that gets pushed in this way. Like that. This one here. Like that. Let's test this out. You'll have to take my word for it, but both my seats are now heating. That has done the trick. I now have heated seats.